Today on the Speak Life series, we're going to be looking at the ambassador's model and the 3 types of pro-choice. Welcome back to the Speak Life series. My name is Ryan Lynn, and welcome to my home. This series is designed to equip you to speak up for the life of the unborn. I can't stress to you enough how important this topic really is. Life hangs in the balance. So far, we've talked about grace, love, and the gospel, and that it's so important that we don't forget these things when we're bringing the truth and bringing the pro-life message. We are going to continue on that theme today by looking at the ambassador's model. This was developed by Stand to Reason Ministries. I put a link in the description for you to dig deeper into their material. One thing we can't forget when we're talking to people about the pro-life message is who we represent. We represent Christ as His ambassadors. Anything we do or say is a representation of His kingdom. So we need to remember these 3 important steps, and this is called the ambassador's model. Number 1, knowledge, an accurate mind. Now this comes from Stand to Reason Ministries. An ambassador must have some basic knowledge. Minimally, he must know the character, mind, and purpose of his king. In other words, we must know what we're talking about and know the heart of our king. Number 2, wisdom, an artful method. Knowledge must be deployed in a skillful way. There's an element of wisdom, a tactical and artful diplomacy that makes his message persuasive. He doesn't use knowledge as a weapon, but rather as a tool. He's careful in the way that he's deconstructing the person he's talking to's false philosophies. He communicates truth in a skillful way. Number 3, character. It's an attractive manner. Because an ambassador brings himself along in everything he does, his personal maturity and individual virtue can either make or break the message. We need to be those who attract people to the message. A bitter person can make a sweet message sour. A bitter person can make a sweet message, the gospel, the pro-life message, sour. We don't want to sour good news. Stand to Reason has a printable version of the full creed on their website that I would encourage you to print and place in your house somewhere. We're going to just read it word for word. Ready. An ambassador is alert for chances to represent Christ and will not back away from a challenge or an opportunity. Patient. An ambassador won't quarrel, but will listen in order to understand. Then with gentleness, seek to respectfully engage those who disagree. Reasonable. An ambassador has informed convictions, not just feelings, gives reasons, asks questions, seeks answers, and will not be stumped by the same challenge twice. Tactical. An ambassador adapts to each unique person and situation, maneuvering with wisdom to challenge bad thinking, presenting the truth in an understandable and compelling way. Clear. An ambassador is careful with language and will not rely on Christian lingo nor gain unfair advantage by resorting to empty rhetoric. Honest. An ambassador is careful with the facts and will not misrepresent another's view, overstate his own case, or understate the demands of the gospel. Humble. An ambassador is provisional in his claims, knowing that his understanding of truth is fallible. He will not press a point beyond what the evidence allows. Fair. An ambassador is sympathetic and understanding towards others and will acknowledge the merits of a contrary views. Attractive. An ambassador will act with grace, kindness, and good manners. He will not dishonor Christ in his conduct. Dependent. An ambassador knows that effectiveness requires joining his best efforts with God's power. Can you see how important these principles are when we're communicating the pro-life message? To be those who are clear, who are tactical, who are sympathetic, who are dependent on Christ. We need to represent Christ's kingdom as we present this message. I would encourage you to also read Greg Koukl's book. He's the president of Stand to Reason Ministries. The title of his book is called Tactics. In this book, he talks more about the second part of the ambassador's model, the artful way, wisdom. How do we skillfully present truth? He gives a couple steps in his book, and I'm not going to be able to go into much detail right now, but I would encourage you to read it for yourself. The foundation of all of it is to ask good questions. And there's 3 types of questions we ask. The first type of question we ask is gathering information. The next one is reversing the burden of proof. And then lastly, we lead the conversation. So the first part is gathering information. And the question you can ask is something like this: what do you mean by that? And when we relate it to the pro-life message, we can ask questions like, well, what do you mean by abortion? What do you mean by a fetus? When do you consider life to begin? What do you mean by killing? When do you think it's okay to kill a baby? You can ask questions to understand where people are coming from. It's important that we not only ask good questions, but then on top of that, that we listen to the answers while they're being given. Why? Because you might be guilty of creating what's called a straw man fallacy. You may find you have a brilliant refutation of a pro-choice view, but then that person isn't holding that view. Another thing that can happen is you can misrepresent what someone is saying if you're not properly listening to them. So when we ask these questions to gather information, we're not using it as a weapon, but be able to understand where the person is coming from so that we can better ask more clarifying questions. Once you feel like you really understand where a person's coming from, the next step is to reverse the burden of proof. And a simple question is, well, how did you come to that conclusion? Make them give reasons for what they believe. Don't let them just make statements. Have them give you reasons. For example, can you prove to me that a fetus is not a human life? How did you come to the conclusion that a fetus is not a human life? Can you show me evidence that a baby in the womb is not just as valuable as you or I? So we ask these questions based upon the information they give us. The next step is leading a conversation, and this is directly from the book Tactics on page 73. When the steps to a conclusion are both clear and reasonable, it's much easier to convince someone because he can see the route clearly. He can retrace it on his own if he wants to. With each question, we lead him closer to our destination. Just like if you have someone else drive you somewhere, you won't know how you got there. But if you're the one that's driving and they're giving you step-by-step instructions till you get to your destination, you're able to retrace your steps. In the same way, we can just give information out to people, but they're not going to be able to realize, how did I come to this conclusion? But if you ask questions and get them to be able to think about where they're coming from and give reasons why they're coming from that position, they'll be able to retrace why they changed their view. Instead of explaining how to do every leading question, I would encourage you to go to STR's website, str.org, or to read Tactics, be able to get a better understanding to how to do this step We'll also be looking at this in the coming weeks, how to ask good questions and to lead the conversation in this area. Before we end the video, I just want to take a moment to look at the 3 types of pro-choice. And this is just to get you thinking about how would I respond to each one of these positions, and then go and research, come back and watch the following videos to get better questions to ask these people who hold these positions. So the first view of the pro-choice is not human, that they're just simply cells, that a fetus or a baby in the womb is not human. Now, there's multiple positions based upon development, but I'm just talking generally that the unborn is not human. Greg Koukl says this in his book Relativism. In most cases, those favoring abortion agree that human persons are valuable. They disagree, though, on whether the unborn child, in fact, is an example of an innocent human person. Now, this is the most common argument, that the fetus is not a human or does not have human value. And so we'll be looking at this in the coming weeks and how to respond to it. The next one is justified abortion, or that 2 wrongs can make a right. In this case, people believe that killing a fetus in the womb is murder, but that there are times that we can terminate a pregnancy and it not be murder. In this case, the most common arguments are bringing these children into the world can be an economic drain. Who's going to take care of them? Or women should not be forced to bring unwanted children into the world. Or another one might be women should not be forced to carry a baby resulting from rape or from incest, or maybe for the case of the mother's health. So there's different reasons people give for justifying an abortion. The third position is modified pro-choice, or I'm personally against abortion, but I do not believe in forcing my views on others. Now, this is the ultimate relativistic worldview, and I would encourage you to read Greg Koukl and Francis Beckwith's book, Relativism, to get a better understanding of this position. And I think this position is probably the most dangerous of all the positions, because it's the one that I see Christians falling into time and time again, thinking that we have no place to stand on to tell other people what they can do with their lives. Now, we're going to spend a whole video or series of videos answering this question. So those are the 3 positions. We have, number 1, they believe that the fetus is not a human. Number 2, they believe the fetus is a human, but it's okay in certain situations. And number 3 is they believe abortion is wrong, but they don't want to force that view on anybody else. So those are the 3 positions. Be thinking about it. Be thinking about how would you respond to it in an ambassador's type of way. How would you do it in love, in grace, in light of the gospel? So those are the positions. This is how we are to do it. How would you respond? Thank you so much for taking the time to consider this important topic. I know that it takes time. I know that it takes energy. I know that it takes courage. And I know this topic can drain you emotionally. It's not easy. Remember, you don't have to do everything, but you need to do something. What is God asking you to do to speak life? I'm praying for you to grow in knowledge, to train in wisdom, and to shine in character. Today we are going to be featuring Stand to Reason Ministries. As they say on their website, Stand to Reason equips Christian ambassadors with knowledge, wisdom, and character. STR teaches the value of using our minds to love God and share the gospel. We focus on the basics, the fundamentals of theology and ethics, and the fundamental tools of thought. We teach not just what to think, but how to think. While STR may not be unique in the information we give, we are distinctive in the way we use the information. And this is why I just love this ministry, because it is so important to them not only to have good information, but that we give the information in the right way, which is what we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks. I pray you're blessed and continue to speak life.